Hi, I'm Daisy Wolfenden. I'm MD at Wolfenden Agency, and this is Dan Pratt, the Solutions Director.
Hi.
So we are going to have just a chat about AI, some of the things that we get commonly asked, some things that might be useful for you to know. So I guess probably the first question, the thing that we get asked kind of most is probably which AI tools you would recommend for marketeers. But I wondered if we could maybe make that a little bit more focused, kind of where do we use these tools, in which channels might they help? Is there 1 to 2 per channel that you would strongly recommend? Kind of what are your go-tos at the moment?
So it's an interesting question, what are the go-tos? Because at the moment there's an acceleration of tools coming out and application of AI within tools. So there's loads out there. So there's a bit of a discovery phase at the moment of finding the right tools.
And I guess you break it into the ones that are actually useful and actionable versus the ones that are just super fun to play with.
Yeah, and it's also getting over that super fun to play with element because you find a tool and you go, this is amazing, but actually, no, it's actually just taking up half my day. So the one on everyone's lips is ChatGPT. I think we're finding a way of using that, or ways of using that, by using prompt generators. And then I read something the other day which was slightly revolutionary for me, that you can actually use ChatGPT to generate your prompts for ChatGPT. So it's all becoming more exploratory. And ChatGPT is also, it's on the verge of being incorporated into quite a lot of different tools. So there's a tool, SEO testing, which is a really good A/B SEO testing tool, which is now incorporating ChatGPT. And I think the element of that is having that conversation with the tools that you have, which suddenly opens up not needing so many skills. It's a really it's the evolution of democratizing quite a lot of skills into more accessible kind of ways of finding them. So other tools, I think from a data point of view, and this is I won't tell the data team this, but there's a tool called Excel Formula Bot, which you can put a prompt in and it gives you your formula without you having to remember. It's hard enough remembering VLOOKUPs, which I've done for years. So that's a really good tool. There's a really good one that kind of sits above, and it's great for the new biz team. It's great from a marketing kind of strategy point of view, and it's Aiproduct.tools. It's a free tool, but it's a discovery tool that can give you a canvas for a business idea. And that's just a good prompt. It's a good starting point.
That's the thing. Sometimes you do things that it's not trying to create information or pathways that you didn't know, but it's just having them there, getting yourself thinking again, having that ease of creating it in one moment to then play with and modify and evolve. But I really enjoy that as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of wraparounds. It's almost superhero skills, and AI is just giving everyone the ability to start to accelerate what they can do. So ChatGPT with the team, it's been great for accelerating the admin elements of what they do. There's another tool which again I've just come across, but again it's starting to revolutionize a few things I do. So it's called Otter.ai, and it takes voice meeting notes and real-time transcription, and then you can take those notes and you've all pricked your ears up. So so I think that's one I'm going to share wider in the agency. And I've got a long list of tools which I'm slowly picking through and saying, how can we wrap around what we do? I think there's a couple of design ones from an SEO point of view where a lot of the team could really use visualizing some of the experience elements of what we put into our recommendations. So there's a couple of tools around that. One which an ex-colleague works for now is Wizard, where you can actually draw a stamp of a design or experience, and you put it in, and it creates a prototype of that. So There's loads,
and I guess what we can do is with everything that we've mentioned today is we'll just put the URLs in, but also kind of upcoming, as we cherry pick the best, we'll always share those tools that we find genuinely useful for each team and how we use them, just because I think with everything like this, like people can sometimes be really little tool hoarders, where actually you want to share this information and you know, share with people the shortcuts that you find helpful or tools that we're using in the business. So we'll keep updating that as well. And then I guess probably the second biggest conversation point, which is super broad, but is kind of where you see the future for AI within digital marketing. How is it going to transform our roles? Where do you think we're going to see the evolution kind of go to next?
I think there's a natural fear of this evolution because there's a real acceleration. I don't think I've felt an acceleration in technology like this for quite some time. But I think that's exciting because it's an enabler to be able to realize some of the solutions recommendations that we're putting forward a lot quicker, and actually round off some of the things we do. And also, I mentioned that word before, democratize across different teams, and it helps teams to realize the skills within other teams and also the bridging elements between teams. So really the way I see AI being incorporated into what we do, we have to embrace what these tools and capabilities allow us to do. I don't think we should get distracted in terms of the end game, because at the moment I don't think anyone knows the end game, and anyone knows how it's going to settle down in terms of how we're going to use these on a day-to-day basis in a regular fashion. But it certainly enables us to accelerate things like content, the creative elements, the data elements, and I
guess that's where you'll have almost two sides to it. It's like, how can it support agency life? So things like the meeting notes, the kind of admin tasks that you're like, well, actually, if you can ease up people's time there, everyone benefits. That's huge. And then you have it for the production elements of it, and that's going to change by channel, by sector. So it's going to be very interesting, you know, even on the content elements of it, that's only going to apply for certain sectors. There are some sectors which are more heavily regulated. The content needs to be a little bit more finessed. It's more of a communication strategy. So I think it is really going to, change with the application.
That fear around, will it take away the need for copywriters? I think there's a level of content, you know, in certain sectors. That fairly basic content still has an impact. There still needs to be an element of quality and due diligence there. But in other sectors, actually, the quality of content is really high anyway. You can't step away from that quality level.
So obviously more regulated, or even, you know, some of our clients who work on the more standards basis or in legal, you're never going to be able to. It really is about the quality of.
And that's an important point of not getting carried away with the capabilities of the tool and the answers that come back, because it looks amazing, but actually if you dig in, there's no soul to a lot of this.
It's just words without substance.
And there's also you know, they're often calling some of the answers AI hallucinations, where the AI is making information up, or it's taking elements of information and squashing it together, and actually it's nonsensical. So there's got to be that level of due diligence and focus on quality.
Well, I guess that kind of leads on to the next question, which is, I guess, the next conversation point, some of which you've answered, but around that kind of negativity and fear around AI. As you said, there's an element of like, is it going to make certain positions null and void, or you know, but I think there's been a lot of talk that it will replace, you know, content writers, SEO. You've mentioned around the content, but do you think in a broader sense that has any legitimacy, that it has any kind of real
I think there is some legitimate fears there, and obviously there's been a letter of lots of tech leaders, including Elon Musk, put forward to say, can we put a pause on this? I think there is a legitimate fear. There's also unknown elements, so the AI is doing things which they're not entirely sure why or how. If you expand the idea of what it could do or the capabilities or how it could evolve, you can quite easily get scared.
I mean, this is one of our favourite kind of pub conversations.
Yeah, it is. What happens?
Because, yeah, how dark can you go?
AI doesn't think like a human, but we're giving it loads of information that we've collated over time. And as those large language models that feed, the likes of ChatGPT, as they get bigger, we're giving it more connections to learn from, and we're not entirely sure how it's going to put those connections together. And there's arguments that it will never be as complex as the human brain, but the human brain is a set of connections if we take away the soul of the idea of the human brain. So there's a logic to the fact that actually it might get to the point where it's unwieldy and dangerous. So I think there needs to be some governance.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with governance. I do think kind of like on a smaller scale, and when we're talking about the next, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, will it replace in entirety X, Y, or Z role? No. But will those roles change for how they look today? Yes. And that's the kind of happy medium. As long as you're not afraid of, for me, as long as you're not afraid of evolution, how roles and channels and strategy is going to change, then no, it's not going to become null and void. It's just that what your kind of day-to-day role is, what your output is, what resources you have will change.
I think there's one point there, though, where you're saying the next 5 or 10 years. I think other previous technology shifts have been in the next 5 or 10 years, whereas I think AI has proven to be quicker.
Yeah.
And
in the next 5 to 10 months.
5 to 10 months is one of those points where, every week there's something new. Well, every day, every hour, probably. So there's another element. You don't need to keep up with everything. You need to almost step back and see the big points at which things change. So the accessibility of ChatGPT has changed things quite significantly. I'd say Midjourney 5 has changed the perception of the quality of AI image generation, because it's getting so close to actually being realistic, and it's quite hard to tell. I think that in the news the other day, there was an AI generated photo that won a photo competition, and so it's starting to blur into real life. The news that Drake and The Weeknd had their voices replicated and released in a tune which has now since been taken off iTunes and Spotify. Again, it's just blurring in, and there's a statement of, right, this is the last step, AI, you stepped into our world.
But I think that's why you need that governance point.
Yeah.
I think the focus for the from a marketing perspective, from a digital marketing perspective, should be about the utilization of tools for ease of, speed, strategy, admin, those elements of it, with obviously all living under the fear that we could all be. So from a tool perspective, I think there's nothing but positive. From a broader perspective, absolutely agree with you. There needs to be governance, and there is a kind of fear of the unknown. But what we'll do is we'll pop the tools that we've spoken about, we'll make sure that we link to them. And then, as I say, like as an agency, as we begin to understand how we can better use tools, what are the best tools out there, and as this begins to change, we'll release regular updates of our favorite tools per channel as well to share. And if there's any other, questions around tools or usage that you have, just drop a message. And as I say, it's our favorite pub or coffee conversation. So something we're always happy to talk about.